Okay, where we go. This is the 2025 Tesla Model Y. I've got the entry-level model, rear-wheel drive. Prices have jumped up a little bit compared with the predecessor, about $3,000 difference. This starts from just under $59,000, excluding on-road costs. In terms of the design, I think it looks much more refined than before. Like the previous model, I like to think of it as like a transport capsule, like just a pod that gets you around, whereas now it looks more like a car, and it's got a lot more refinement, especially in the back end. At night time, there's this red glow under here that just sort of highlights the new Tesla logo. Well, it's not new logo, but it doesn't have the T anymore. And it just looks, yeah, much more luxurious and expensive. It still has the same carryover glasshouse area. And in the front end, you've got a nice big full width lighting trim and different contours. It still looks quite futuristic, but yeah, very practical 5-seater mid-size SUV. Inside, this is not so much focused on the driver as other models in this class. You don't even have an instrument cluster there, but you've got a nice big touchscreen and a proper center console, which is great to see. Having a proper center console, in my opinion, is better because you can put your things in there and they're not going to float around, and they're also concealed. So if you want to lock the vehicle and you've got some private items or whatever expensive items, you can hide them away there. They're not exposed, compared with Tesla's earlier models that just had a big tray there. You've got a big bucket at the front, twin cup holders, and another storage box at the back. Good driving position and plenty of headroom and legroom. Like, it feels spacious for this class. I'm just not a fan of this steering wheel because the spokes here, this top spoke is quite high up the steering wheel, and it means when you've got your hands in the resting position here, you're at 10 to 2 rather than 2 to 3. I'd rather have my hands pretty much, right in the middle of the steering wheel, whereas this feels like you're just sort of sitting on top of the steering wheel a little bit. It's also quite small, the rim. And then you've got Tesla's minimalist approach to the buttons on the steering wheel and all of that. These do a number of different things depending on what you're doing. Basically, to activate the cruise control, you just touch that once. But if you want to go into the settings and so on, such as adjust the mirrors, you've got to actually use these toggles to make those adjustments. So these perform multi-functions, which can be confusing at first, but obviously once you get used to it, you own the vehicle for a while, you know exactly what they do and what else they can do. Up on the dash here, this is actually the gear selector. You just swipe it forward and back for reverse, and in the middle for park. As you saw then, there's a pretty comprehensive camera system, very highly detailed, high resolution. Definitely get a good view of what's going on around you. You do have some main menu buttons along the bottom of the touch screen, which is great, so you can just jump to whatever function you're looking for. And then up at the back, again, decent amount of headroom and legroom. You've got a flip down armrest here with cup holders and a full climate control touch panel on the back, even as standard on this entry-level model. Completely flat floor as well, so even the middle passenger, you don't have your knees in your eye sockets. This seat can recline, or it feels like it can, because it's quite tilted back. I've got plenty of headroom. I'm not a fan of these massive these massive sunroofs, because in the hot Aussie summer, you're going to have sun piercing through that. I mean, it is quite tinted, but I'd rather have the ability to put a cover over that. And I think you can with the Teslas as well. I know a lot of the rivals offer some sort of pop-in cover, so I'm sure there is one available for this as well. But just, yeah, as it is, I'd want that to be covered up at summertime. Definitely lets in a lot of light though, makes it feel like a bit of a spaceship, a bit of a modern, or not even modern, futuristic vehicle that you're driving. You do have some pockets in the back for storage, and you've got big pockets in the doors as well. One thing I've noticed compared with previous gen Teslas is the quality. Like, this feels like a high quality product. All the fit and finish. It's got this sort of textured fabric on the doors, soft touch leather style or vinyl trimming all the way down to the bottom. And even the B-pillar here, so the seat belt doesn't smack up against the plastic like it does in a lot of the rivals. Usually you have material on the second half or the top half, but this has actually got this vinyl-y soft padded area. And up at the back, you've got a decent sized boot. It does have this weird folding security blind thing. I'd probably rather just have a roller shutter, but it is quite light in weight, and obviously you can just remove it if you don't want it. And we do have some storage under the floor as well. Quite a big bucket, and even a shallow trough at the front, or the front half of the boot. For this test, I'm at the Model Y launch, the media launch. It's for the rear-wheel drive model, so we've got a few different examples down there. They're all the same. The only difference is some of them have the optional 20-inch wheels, like on this one, and then all the standard 19-inch wheels. We'll go for a drive up in the mountains, check out the handling, and we'll also get onto the highway and test out the Autopilot cruise control function. The first thing you'll notice is the technology. It's a very smart vehicle, obviously. It knows what's going on around it all the time. And I think that's over and above a lot of vehicles that are out there that also have the same sort of technology and sensors and cameras. It's just that this seems like it's just much more aware of what's going on around it. There's obviously a lot of different options you can play around with. We've got the auto steer, autopilot feature turned on. So we'll check that out on the highway. But yeah, lots of different other features you can play around with, acceleration and deceleration and all of that. We'll try that all out later on. But for now, we're just going to get out of the city and see how it drives as a bit of a, practical city run around. Good visibility out the front in the Model Y. I can see over that side mirror pretty easily. There's also a little bit of a gap between the pillar and the mirror. But also I'm perched up quite a bit. I've got the seat lowered down in its lowest setting, but I still feel like I'm sitting quite high. But yeah, I do have an excellent view out the front. I can see almost straight down over the bonnet. But out the back, it is much more confined. The rear windscreen, even though it does kind of have a wagon profile at the back on the outside, it's just a very thin windscreen there. And the C and D pillars are quite chunky as well. So although the view out the back is pretty confined, I've got this system running here constantly that's showing me what's going on around me anyway. So you probably wouldn't spend much time looking out your rear view mirror. And when you're in reverse, obviously it's got the smart cameras and so on, which you can actually activate from here as well. That gives us a really good view of what's going on behind me.
They're right to stay on Euston Road.
Behind me and the sides as well. One thing I don't really like about even most Teslas actually is that the driver doesn't seem important. It's got the screen here, including the speedo, and it's all just for the passengers as well. Like it's almost like the designers don't want this steering wheel here even, and that's, I don't know, it makes it feel a little bit cold and a little bit sort of without character. Although they have improved the interior design over the years, I can notice, because you've got this ambient lighting now. It just feels like it's broken up with a few more textures and materials to make it look and feel a bit more refined. There we go. Every time I hit the indicator, it's got a camera view. So it's kind of like the Hyundai Kia system with the camera under the mirror there. Gives you a view of your blind spot. So again, you don't need to look out your rear window. I mean, into your mirror into your rear window just to see what's behind you. You can kind of semi-rely on the technology we've got. But yeah, as I'm driving along, it feels more like I'm in a sort of transport pod rather than a car. It doesn't have that same feeling. And yep, I'm getting a bit old and I'm so used to the old style of vehicle. I'm just letting you know that if you do like that old style of vehicle, then you might not like this. It just doesn't feel like a car as much. It more feels like some sort of, modern transport capsule or something. Yeah, I've been driving a little bit now and I'm watching this real-time monitor go, and I've noticed that in a lot of the rivals, particularly the sort of cheaper Chinese rivals, it's not very accurate, whereas this has got these two cars in front, which are just there. They're not moving, they're not blinking, they're not disappearing, and sometimes there's a truck that will just appear then disappear in other vehicles, whereas this, I'm noticing that it's constantly showing the correct information, which is always good. It's even picking up the traffic signs there up on the ceiling of the tunnel. But yeah, no flickering, no nothing. It's just constantly reading those cars in front. There's nothing else around me. I guess the kind of annoying thing is it's blocking some of the screen, having everything housed within one screen. That's why I personally would prefer an instrument cluster that can contain this sort of stuff, because it feels like it's just jammed full of everything. If you hit this car button down here, you've got this pop-up thing that's got all of your vehicle settings, and that overtakes the sat nav, for example. But you can configure some of this move it around. Even so, I would rather have a separate screen for my speed, even this constantly running real-time traffic analysis thing, all housed within this, and then this can just concentrate on my sat nav, and then I can have, you know, something else on the side here, my media or whatever. In terms of the handling on a nice winding road, you've got a few different modes for the steering. I've got it in the standard mode. The light mode is actually quite nice, it's pretty relaxing, and then the heavy mode, yeah, it's too heavy for my, you know, for my tastes, but you've got the option there. Standard is just in the middle. It feels a little bit heavy. It's got a bit of weight to it, which I guess is good if you're driving in these sorts of conditions. There is a bit of a sort of rattle or a knocking sound from the suspension, and I've heard this on a number of cars. It's not really a bad thing. It's just, you can just hear this distinct little knock as you're going over bumps while you're turning. Sometimes it's the sway bar or something like that, just sort of makes a bit of a sound, but I don't think it's anything bad. But yeah, I can just hear it going over these bumps. The ride comfort is pretty good, it seems alright. This is a fairly ordinary road. It's got some bumps and patches and sort of ripples all over it, and it's comfortable. Yeah, but there's a bit of sportiness to it as well. Like, I can feel the conditions underneath my seat. With that good visibility over the front, yeah, it kind of does help with the driving experience, or make it more of a more enjoyable experience, because it does feel like I'm sitting right on the front wheels. So I know exactly where the vehicle is placed when I'm making turns. I can keep it in the lane very easily. I can hit an apex or whatever if I want to. Although I don't think that's this style of vehicle. It doesn't seem like much of a driver's sort of SUV. As I said, there's no instrument cluster, but it handles pretty good so far. It gets a bit tighter down here, so we'll push it a bit harder if we can. But so far, it seems to handle all right. This is the rear-wheel drive model, as I said, so it's you can't really feel that it's rear-wheel drive with electric vehicles, because the battery is all located under the floor, and it kind of just evens out the weight just distribution. So when you put your foot down, yeah, you can't really feel it pushing from behind. It'll just be if you're really, you know, attacking some corners and so on and get on the power really early, you might be able to just feel it just a little bit. But in normal situations, I can't feel that this is front-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive, or all-wheel drive. It doesn't really matter. You do have a chill and standard mode for the acceleration. I'll just slow down a bit and show you full throttle. I'll do a 0 to 100 test as well. I've got my V-Box and everything, so we'll try that out. But just cruising along, full power. And it picks up pretty good. We'll try that in chill mode. Slow down again. No one behind me. Full power. Yeah, definitely slower in chill mode. So with a petrol vehicle, I've found that sport modes don't actually make the car any quicker. It doesn't unlock more power from the engine. It just changes the throttle response. But when you give it full power, usually, well, with my V-Box testing anyway, Eco or normal mode is pretty much the same 0 to 100 time as the sport mode, because it doesn't actually change anything when you're giving it full power, whereas this definitely feels like it has less power. I'll just do that again. So full power, and it's just slowly picking up, whereas in standard mode, let's do that again, slow down, no cars behind me, full power. Yeah, much more sudden, and is picking up speed much quicker. So definitely a difference between those two. I'll try and do a 0 to 100 actually with the two different modes and see what the difference is exactly. Okay, pushing a little bit harder through here. One thing about electric vehicles, and the Tesla Model Y in particular, is it's very quiet. So you hear every detail. So the little suspension knocks and so on that I'm hearing, you know, you might not be able to notice with a petrol vehicle, because there's more sort of noises and stuff going on in the background. But it does kind of detract from the driving experience a little bit, like particularly on camera. This probably looks very boring. I'm just cruising along, whereas actually I'm going pretty fast. There's just no sense of speed and occasion and excitement. But that's just what you get with all electric vehicles, not just the Tesla Model Y. Now the Tesla is pretty light for its class. Like a lot of electric vehicles in this sort of mid-size SUV category are very heavy, like well over 2 tons some of them are. Whereas this is actually quite light. And it feels it too. It doesn't feel super heavy from behind the wheel. All the weight is obviously low down under the floor with the batteries, so that helps with driving dynamics as well. Yeah, it feels like it's got good bracing, well braced I was going to say, and hardly any body roll at all. So you just turn in and it just remains very flat. Even jumping on the brakes, I'll just hit them nice and hard. Yeah, there's no major nose diving happening. And then full power, it doesn't really raise the nose at all. It just stays very flat and neutral. Yeah, overall, look, I think this is it feels relatively fun driving down a road like this. Personally, I would prefer something with a petrol engine and a manual. You know, obviously that's what you want if you're a pure driving enthusiast. But it's good to know that this is a very practical SUV and it still can perform around a nice winding road like this. And it's still got a level of enjoyment there. Okay, we'll have another crack at the Autopilot. Now this is, yeah, completely driving the vehicle without my input. If I take my hands off the wheel, it does come up with a warning saying, put your hands back on the wheel. But as you can see, it's driving around the road without my input. It's not bouncing in the lanes either. This is proper Autopilot technology here. This is not just waiting for problems or waiting for the vehicle to go in the wrong direction. It's constantly monitoring and adjusting along the way, making very fine steering wheel adjustments. It's actually remaining perfectly in the middle of the lane as well. Some similar systems I've seen, they'll kind of ride one side and just keep monitoring the one line. This seems like it's managing to stay nicely in the middle of the lane. Now obviously this technology is not really, you don't really get to experience the full potential in Australia because of laws and so on. So it's basically like adaptive cruise control, except it's got, you know, total steering control as well, but you've still got to have your hands on the steering wheel. So it's kind of, I don't know, it's a little bit pointless in my opinion, because if you're so not paying attention to the road that this is going to save you, you know, I mean, it would save you, I guess, if you fell asleep. Actually, we'll try it out. Let's just see how it goes. So it's actually picked up that that's a truck, but that's fair enough. It does have a trailer on the back. I just won't touch the steering wheel for as long as it will run until the warnings come up, and just see what happens. In normal cars, or in other cars, sorry, not normal cars, but other cars, usually it just goes, driver has to take over. It won't bring the car to a stop or anything like that, but we'll see what this does. So I've now had my hands off the wheel for a good sort of 10 seconds. Apply slight turning force to steering wheel. No, I'm not going to do that, and just see what happens. This is not really legal, by the way, so this is not what this system is meant to be for. I'm just doing it for testing purposes and no cars around, keeping an eye on everything. Still haven't touched the steering wheel. That's been a good, what, 30 seconds, I suppose. And what's going to happen when it eventually runs out? Auto steer unavailable for the rest of the drive. So it's actually barred me from, it is slowing down too. It's backed off in the throttle. It's not coming to a complete stop. The hazard lights just came on there then as well. So it probably would bring the vehicle to a complete stop. It would be great to test this on a proving ground or something. I've seen a Volkswagen, I think, it basically pulled the vehicle over safely and came to a complete stop in testing conditions. So I'm guessing this does the same thing. But there you go, now I've been banned from using Autopilot until I get out and restart the vehicle. Great technology though, and yeah, a potential insight into what we're going to be using in the future. Okay, we'll see if we can do a 0 to 100 run along here. It's a 100 km/h speed zone. I'll try it out in standard, and I'll see if I can do a run in chill as well. I've got the V-Box mounted up. Just turn the air conditioning completely off. Okay, away we go. And that's 100. Keep in mind, this is with 52% battery level. So some EVs will be quicker when you've got a full battery, while others, like the Porsche Taycan, remember that, it had repeatable performance, so all the way down to pretty much 20% battery. That's just done 6.2, 0 to 100. The official claim is 5.9, so we'll try it in the chill mode just to see the difference. Okay, I'm in chill mode now. Let's see what it can do. Definitely feels a little bit slower. That's 100. Yeah, 8.3. So it's about 2 seconds difference in chill mode compared with standard mode. Again, that's just a quick demonstration of what it's like. I did do some tests earlier on with a higher battery. I just didn't get a chance to get my camera out to record it, but these are the times that I achieved. There we go, the new Tesla Model Y. First impressions are, it's a little bit more car-like in terms of the colors and trims inside, like you've got different textures and stuff going on. Aside from the lack of a instrument cluster, yeah, it just feels more like a conventional car, which is, I think, a good thing. It's got a nice big center console and so on, unlike some of the early Teslas that just had a big bucket there, which, you know, all your stuff would just slide around. It still has lots of storage, and yeah, the practicality inside is really good. Excellent passenger space and all of that. It drives okay, like it's not a sports SUV. It wasn't intending to be. It just lacks a little bit in terms of engagement, I feel, and that's, you know, part of that is that it's just quiet, it's just silent. It doesn't feel heavy, even though, you know, electric vehicles usually are heavy. This feels pretty sporty and agile, or reasonably so anyway, compared with other rivals. And yeah, the technology is definitely the standout feature of the vehicle. Like the real-time traffic information here, and, you know, in terms of monitoring the surroundings, is very much at the top of the class. I haven't seen something like this, apart from in some Volvos and Polestar and so on. This is probably near the very top of the industry at the moment. The Autopilot system is very good. It doesn't bounce around in the lane. It's a proper autopilot taking over complete control of the vehicle, or it can do, even though it's not really allowed, or it's totally not allowed in Australia. So it's a little bit pointless, but it does showcase the potential future. Anyway, I'll have a full written review of this up on the website very soon, and I'll see if I can book in one for a performance test later on, including with the all-wheel drive model.